What are some of the unique challenges that you've observed for EdTech developers and entrepreneurs in this sector?
I think once you get past or once you have an understanding of those buyer and user personas, really understanding how decisions are made in each of these landscapes is also critically important. In K-12, when you're making a presentation to a school district, district cabinet level person, you kind of know, because they're pretty much published, the strategic plans that have been published by those school districts, and you know the cycles by which decisions are made. In the higher education space, in my experience in working with education entrepreneurs, those decisions are more decentralized in a lot of ways. Universities are allowing, as Jason just mentioned, the professors to make the purchase decisions based on the dynamics of each of those products. So you have to get to know not only the dynamics of the university, ASU is very different from the University of Pennsylvania, but also the way that professors and instructors are making decisions on the kinds of product and services that they're purchasing in a lot of cases on behalf of their students.
John, may I ask you to elaborate a little bit on one of the points about faculty as decision makers in post-secondary education relative to potentially students being your buyers? What have you seen about products in this space that might try to target direct to students versus direct to faculty consumers?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And for a long time in working with education entrepreneurs, we talk about professors as rock stars. How are professors actually utilizing content, putting their name on content, making decisions on how content is being used by actual students? And what can you do as an education entrepreneur to advance that notion of the professor being a rock star? They like to have their name on things. They like to have influence in how decisions are made in terms of the content, the pedagogy, the instruction that's being disseminated out to their students. So whatever you can do as an education entrepreneur to allow the professor to potentially author content or publish content or put their name on the content that's being put out there, I think is a unique dynamic that isn't seen in the K-12 world.